Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel. T minus 2 days. 2 days. By the time this video is out, 2 days, 48 hours, and we'll be back in Celtic Park watching Celtic after an extended break due to the internationals. I, for one, am absolutely buzzing. But what state are the team returning to Lennoxtown in? What state will the starting 11 be on Saturday? Because as normal, yes, injuries have plagued us this international break. Right, before we get into the video, make sure to hit like and subscribe if you haven't already. Thank you all so much for hitting 36,000 subscribers. We managed to get over the line yesterday. I didn't even notice, so thank you all very, very much. And let's keep going. Let's try and get to 40,000 as soon as possible. Could we get as close to that before the end of the year? It's a big challenge, but I believe you can do it. So make sure to hit like and subscribe down below this video. So as I said, the international break is over. The players are returning to Lennoxtown. Ange Postecoglou will have his full team back at the training ground this week, or for the remainder of this week, I should say, as we look forward to Motherwell on Saturday. But as I mentioned briefly in that short sort of intro to the video, injuries. Of course, it was always going to happen. We went into the international break touching wood, hoping for the best, praying that everyone would come back safe and sound, fit as anything. But it felt like every day of this international break, there was news, every passing moment, that there was an injury for a Celtic player, that someone had aggravated something, that they'd done this, had been subbed off here. You know, there was news everywhere, and it's been annoying to sit through and waiting to hear if they're okay or not. We've not really got quite the fullest of updates on them, but it's just bloody typical. It's all part of a conspiracy, isn't it? It's all part of the Stop Celtic Winning the League conspiracy. No, I'm joking. I'm not one of those. It is typical though. This has happened for the last few international breaks in recent memory for Celtic players coming back with muscle injuries, having to miss a couple of games here and there. It's not been ideal for us, but it's something that I think both the manager, Ange Postecoglou, and us as fans have gotten quite used to. It's pretty much expected. Annoyingly, it shouldn't be, but it's annoyingly expected at this point that players do come back with these sort of injuries, especially with Celtic and the football that we play and the amount of football that we play. You know, we're playing so many games a season, domestic football, both in the league and the cups, European football. I think the advantage this year is that we didn't have European qualifiers, but you've got all of those games anyway. And then you've got obviously international games, which a lot of our team are playing either at senior level or under 21s level. You're playing that many minutes, it's basically guaranteed that players are going to have to miss a couple of games every now and then due to small, minor injuries. Luckily, when you look at the list, and we'll go through the list, none of them look like major injuries. We shouldn't be like losing anyone for an extended period of time. But, you know, with the games being crammed into this really, and this is where the World Cup really should be questions. We've got all these games squashed into this short period of time. Players are picking up knocks left, right and centre, and it's not fair on the footballers. It's certainly not fair on the supporters who obviously pay good money to go and watch these footballers. And it's obviously part of the problem that this World Cup has caused. But listen, we've got to pull up our pants. We've got to get on with it like men. And let's have a look at it. But you know, it's annoying. Let's look at the schedule coming up. So here is the month of October. 9 games squashed into 31 days across the month of October. Of course, we head into this with a side that is depleted right now on injuries. And through this run of 9 games, you wouldn't be surprised if we pick up another couple of knocks. It is very frustrating that we head into this with the injuries we've got. It's very frustrating knowing that it's such a tough month once again that Celtic need to get through on the best form possible. Because you look at all the games there that are jotted down for the month of October, you know, they're not easy games, but they're games that all of them have to be won. They're games in the Champions League that have to be won. We've got 2 home games in the Champions League there. We've got obviously Shakhtar Donetsk and Leipzig, both at Celtic Park. We need to win those games. Ideally, we need to win against Leipzig next week away from home as well. And then domestically, you've got to win every single game, especially after dropping points to St Mirren. So it's a month where Celtic can't afford to drop points in any competition, and we've got to do that with players out. I think at this moment in time, there's 7 injuries that we know of. We don't know the extent of them, but 7 injuries. And that's at the start of October. Wow. So the injury rundown then. Let's have a look at all 7 players in detail, what exactly is wrong with them, when we should maybe expect to see them back. Now, disclaimer, I'm going to throw this out before I run through the injuries. We are awaiting the update from Ange Postecoglou. We're awaiting the news from the pre-match press conference for Motherwell. Ange will be able to provide us with the exact details and who will be and who won't be fit and who will be able to be selected. Because there's players here who could come back, realistically, that aren't massive injuries. So we could see the likes of some of them be on the bench. You know, Abada, Maida, whoever, they could be on the bench. They might just not start. So we are awaiting the update from Ange, but we're going to run through the injuries anyway and what's wrong with them and how bad it may look. I think realistically what we're all hoping for is for all these players to actually be fine, all precautionary sort of things, and none of them will miss any games at all, even Motherwell. And if they are to miss any games, only Motherwell, because we've got Leipzig on Wednesday. So yes. First one, Georgios Giacomakis. He is the guy who kind of went down early in the international break with an injury and was sidelined for the international fixtures. Obviously, he had a scan to make sure as well he was okay, which was worrying at the time because, you know, didn't want to hear much about scans and medical procedures and all the rest of it. He's unlikely to take part against Motherwell from an understanding right now. Gus Poyet, who is the Greek manager, was the one that indicated that he wouldn't be ready to play games for Greece, and you know, probably this fixture as well. Doesn't look too serious. The leg scan a bit misleading. Should be okay soon. No exact time scale on what could be wrong with him, but hopefully it's one that they are solving the problem with right now at Lennox Town as we speak. Liel Abada, the other one that was out quite early in the international break with injury as well. Of course, he was subbed off against Albania. We spoke about that on the channel the other day, but came on, played in the under-21s game after that. Played 97 minutes, in fact. Pulled off an extra time. And, yeah, I mean, if he's playing that amount of minutes for the under-21s after going off with injury against Albania, you would imagine that he will be fit and available for selection for Celtic. Touch wood. Will he be ready to start for Celtic? Different question, different story. But his is looking a wee bit more promising. So GG down and out. Abada might be back. We've went one down, one up so far. Next attacker to be out. Yes, it's all the attackers, isn't it? We spoke about it once again. I'm getting the ones I've already spoke about out the way first. Dyson Maeda, he went down with an injury. He didn't take part in Japan's last fixtures in the international break, and he didn't take part in the training sessions either, which obviously isn't a great sign. However, there is nothing to suggest it's a serious injury. If it was serious, then I think we would have heard all about it. I also think they would have probably, Celtic as a club would have tried to get him back sooner as well, but that's not the case. He remained with Japan. We don't know yet. That's one that Ange will have to clear up. But by the looks of it, if he's not been training with Japan, he's probably not came back to Lennox Town to train, if he's back yet. And he probably won't take part of the weekend. So Dyson Maeda, there's the next one. And very similar to Dyson Maeda was Sead Haksabanovic, which I was very upset about when I seen the news come through that he had to go off in his game for Montenegro the other night. I think it was the game against Finland, if I believe rightly. I'm not entirely sure, but I'm sure it was Finland. He went off, I think, about half an hour into the game. He had to go off with injury. Once again, we don't know the extent. Ange Postecoglou will probably have to clear us up on that one. But really gutting for Haksabanovic, not just because he is my favourite player and I want to see him thrive at the club and I want to see him get his big chances, score his first goal and really make an impression on everyone, but because, you know, there was probably a big chance opening up for him here this weekend with Maeda being out, with Abada being doubtful, Giacomakis being away. You know, the forwards were really depleting. So there was a massive gaping chance there for Haksabanovic, and then bang, like that, he's struck down. So we await the update from Ange Postecoglou. Hopefully just another one that's a minor injury, a minor thing that can be solved very, very quickly. Defensively, there has been a couple to worry about as well. Of course, Cameron Carter-Vickers, who missed the last game against St Mirren, it turned out to be pivotal for Celtic. It was kind of damning that we never had him at the back. We ended up losing the game, and defensively we looked a little unassured. He missed that game. He pulled out of international duty as well to recover. But reports are suggesting that he could be out of this weekend's game against Motherwell. It doesn't look he's recovered in time, which is terrible news because we all want Cameron Carter-Vickers back, and I think we can all agree that he is the best player in the Celtic team. But it looks as though he will miss out on the game with the way that it's been read in the media. Really annoying. And also annoying is the fact his partner Carl Starfelt probably won't be back for this weekend. He was the next player on the list. He's still out with that knee injury he picked up before the international break. Remember, he had to go off against Rangers. Doesn't look as though he will be ready to come back quite yet. I think he is at the point now. Remember, the update that Ange Postecoglou gave a few weeks ago was, he should be fine for after the international break, I believe. But will he be ready to get thrown right back in the starting 11? I don't know. Once again, we'll have to wait to see what Ange Postecoglou says. I have a slight feeling it won't be, though, but he still is on that list. And finally, the last player on the list, David Turnbull, who of course had to withdraw from the Scotland squad after picking up an injury very early on. Steve Clarke went on to say it was nothing serious. Will he be available for the game against Motherwell this weekend? Once again, Ange Postecoglou will have to confirm. But that's the 7 players who are at least doubtful for the game this weekend. I think there's a couple who are probably more likely than others. Abada, maybe Turnbull. But overall, they are guys who've picked up injuries. We'll probably go into it quite precautionary, considering we do have a lot of games this month. We have a bigger game, arguably, coming up against Leipzig as well midweek. So I think that Ange will probably try and manage his way around these quite wisely. So what does that leave us with then? What is the ideal starting 11 for Saturday afternoon if these players do miss the game? Ideally, I think our starting 11 would be the strongest that we know and love, but I don't quite think we're going to see that. So I've kind of conjured up a little starting 11 that could possibly be the one that starts the game this weekend. So let's run through that on screen. There it is. Joe Hart in goals. A back four of Josip Juranovic, Moritz Jens, Stephen Welsh and Greg Taylor in the midfield. The three of McGregor, Hatate and O'Reilly. And a front three of James Forrest, Kyogo and Jota. That is the 11 that I think could start the game this weekend with all the injuries that we do have at this moment in time and the players that could miss the game at this moment in time. Now let's run through it very quickly. The centre-half partnership wasn't convincing at St Mirren. A lot of people didn't like it against St Mirren. A lot of people were really out, especially for Stephen Welsh. A home game against Motherwell, I feel like they should cope a lot better. We should not be conceding a lot of chances in that game. It should be able to see us over the line. We can't really do much. It's not as if we can bring anyone else in at this moment in time. It probably will have to be Welsh and Jens unless Starfelt is fit. If Starfelt's fit, great. Jens and Starfelt can start the game. But I think right now, you have to take what you get. Juranovic coming back will be good though. That's one thing I'm looking forward to. Get the strongest midfield three back in. Really, we were lacking against St Mirren, and I would love to see the three start again. They're fit. O'Reilly performing really well in internationals for the under-21s. He was actually getting scouted by a few teams, reportedly. Hatate, of course, is Hatate, and McGregor's McGregor. And then the front three, listen, it could be worse. James Forrest, I know he's got a lot of critics, but it could be worse. At least we have got him there as an option when it comes to this game for the weekend. And Jota and Kyogo are still fit, which is great. Obviously, Jota stayed with the team anyway, but there you go. I think that could be the 11 that we see this weekend. A very capable 11 for a home game against Motherwell. At Abildgaard, though, could he maybe come in? Could there be a bit of shifting about? Could we maybe see the likes of Matt O'Reilly be deployed as a winger, or maybe a change of shape just a little bit to kind of supplement Abildgaard in and bring him into the team? Could be possible. We have seen a bit of focus on him on the social medias in the past week or two, and we've also heard Ange talk about how he wants to get him involved. I think he will be involved to an extent, but I think he might be subbed on. The question is there though. So there you go. That's the 11 I think that could start against Motherwell, and that's the injury status at Celtic at this moment in time. So yeah, that's going to do it for me today. There's your injuries. What a cheery video. Make sure you like and subscribe. See you all next time.